Hey everybody, welcome to My OP Movies. This week we are revisiting something from the vault, the 13th Warrior, which frankly was baffling, and I'm having a hard time even remembering what it was about, so I guess I'm going to have to rewatch it along with you. I'm recording this before I retouch up the episode, so I guess we'll learn together. I do remember Antonio Banderas, and I do believe Vikings and Muslim explorers, so, the classic combination together at last. We're taking a month off here, but don't worry, we'll be back soon with fresh new materials. In the meantime, thanks for doing all you do to keep us on the charts. Thanks for sharing. Check our link tree to find us in places you haven't found us yet. We appreciate you. Thanks, everyone.
This week on My OP Movies, we watched a movie, and just like Superman taught you to believe that a man can fly, you'll believe that Antonio Banderas can play an Arab. We watched The 13th Warrior. I'm Nick Hoffman, Riff Around Center Providence. On panel we've got...
I'm John.
Jeremy. Matthew W. Quinn.
And we saw The 13th Warrior, based on the Michael Crichton book Eaters of the Dead, directed by John
McTiernan.
And
also Michael Crichton.
And Michael Crichton, which we'll get into. By the way, this is our Patreon episode. It ties into Michael Crichton, who wrote Twister, and McTiernan, who directed Fear Reigns. Oh, gross. Who directed, the Thomas Crown Affair, which is our Mission Briefing Patreon, which if you're hearing this, you've also gotten this month. Because the Mission Briefing is the basic tier. So thank you for being a higher tier subscriber.
The basic bitch tier.
Yeah, your basic bitch tier. Hey man, I'll take the money I can get at this point.
Save Nick from table dancing, please.
Yes, I'm sure my check is in the mail, right, Nick?
I'm sure it is. So, John, you're our guest on the Patreon feed. Can you tell us what this movie is about?
It's about racism and history that's just like crazy, crazy good. Or this is actually about none of those things. And so this is an Arab from Baghdad in about the turn of the millennium, in that it's 990 something. The book I'm looking at is 922 AD. 922 AD. That's awfully specific. But Antonio Banderas, being the Arab that he is an Arab ambassador to the Tartars.
Mm-hmm.
And he is on his way up into the Russian steppe when he is basically assaulted by Vikings. He becomes their friend. They take him off to Viking land, where he is on an adventure to dispel I don't know what you call it, like a mystical danger that is assaulting some town up there.
Yeah.
And this danger is an otherworldly kind of band of creatures, so they turn out to be kind of just cannibals. And, hijinks ensues. It's very Seven Samurai, kind of these 13 Viking warriors plus, or 12 Viking warriors plus Antonio Banderas go up to save this town from marauders.
I think that's fair. I mean, it's sort of kind of based on the voyages of a guy named Ibn Battuta, who, as a medievalist world historian you'll heard of, he's an Arab scholar who travels around the, quote, Arab world and then possibly the whole world. And, I mean, it's got a kind of Darby Dragons quality to it, which is fun. Starring Antonio Banderas and his entourage, which starts out with Omar Sharif, who's immediately written out of this movie.
Yeah. So I was looking this up, and so beyond the obvious problem that Antonio Banderas is Spanish, and he's playing an Arab.
Yep.
So it harkens back to the point when Hollywood was just, you're not white, you can be any minority or foreigner whatsoever.
To be fair, I did a study that a lot of Spanish people have Jewish or Arab ancestry.
Well, true. He's from Spain.
But he's not from Baghdad.
He's not from Baghdad. And just the fact that he's from Spain lends credence to the idea that he probably has Arab ancestry. But, I mean, that he is not an Arab. Whereas Omar Sharif, who is in this as his translator for the first what, half hour of the film?
Not even
Not 20 minutes?
20 minutes.
Omar Sharif is actually an Arab, and he just disappears because he's not one of the 13.
I will give them credit. Their first choice for the role was Scarlett Johansson. So
I also dig on this idea that, like, so you're right. Omar Sharif is a translator who can speak Tatarian or whatever nonsense.
It was Latin. They started speaking Latin to the guys.
And then eventually he has the Pocahontas moment, and he just speaks with his heart and learns it in a montage where they're around a campfire, like, telling dirty jokes about his mother.
I think the montage. I think it's supposed to be several days. Or
Well, they're
weeks.
going from Russia to Scandinavia somewhere.
So they're in the Volga Valley, and so they have to cross Russia to the Baltic and sail to what's probably Denmark.
I knew he was going to defend this from the beginning.
But I have my notes here.
Extensive notes.
Yeah, I should have showed up in my Viking outfit, and then Nick will have to be like, "Hello there, do I see my father? Hello there, do I see my brother?" Because he's about to go to Valhalla.
Well, but here's the thing: we'll get there. We'll get to Valhalla at the end. But this is a talk movie, so we'll get nuggets of joy wherever we can, because this is a goings on. This movie just on and on and on and on.
Probably as much to talk about this movie outside of the movie as it is in the movie.
Well, I'm not sure. You guys said it was boring. I thought it was pretty entertaining. I was never bored.
It wasn't the worst film I've ever seen. It wasn't even really a bad film. It was just a very, like, the pacing was all over the place. For an action movie, or what should have been an action movie, the pacing in certain places was very slow. Like, I even fast-forwarded in some places where the action should have been tense. And it's just like, well, why are we getting 15 minutes of them walking through corridors? I don't know.
At
At the very least, make something like that, like, what was that cave movie, Below or something?
Yes.
Where it's claustrophobic. Like, they didn't even do that.
I took a phone call. I actually made a phone call, and I was like, do I have to rewind this?
No, I was doing the elliptical while I was watching this on my Kindle.
So it's better than pain. Good. It's good. It's better than physical exertion. So the story goes, the Tartars are being reached out to by the Caliphate, I guess. It's the 9th or the 10th century.
So the Caliphate was at its height.
Yeah, I mean, and so they're sending out feelers. It makes.
Well, he was also effectively banished because they say he was macking on a noble's woman.
Yeah,
and the Caliph basically says, "No, you're going to leave," and he sends him off to Tartary.
Yeah. This is the medieval Muslim equivalent of being sent to Greenland.
Right.
Yeah.
And
or the modern equivalent of being sent to Greenland.
Just any sort of
or any Danish possession is just no one else wants it, so Denmark claimed it.
That's right. And so, I mean, like, that's kind of the game that's at play. Like, they're sending him off. You have Omar Sharif who's translating to Latin. It's before the Crusades, so no one hates Muslims, and they never will again.
And they do kind of make a point when he meets the Vikings that as an Arab, he's a little more advanced, a little more clean. So the Vikings are in the morning after they've gotten up after their drunken stupor, and they're all sharing the same bowl to wash their faces in and to sip from, and then they spit back into it, and then they pass it around.
And he's just sitting there looking more and more horrified.
Yeah, they hand it to Omar Sharif and Antonio Banderas, and they pass. They're like, no, we're not going to do this, and they're always impeccably dressed, whereas the Vikings are just not.
Like some of they're a mishmash. Like one of the Vikings is wearing like a Roman gladiator helmet, and then you've got some who are just wearing fur.
Well, they probably stole it from someone because that's just what the Vikings did.
Yeah. And again, like, the geography here is all weird. We don't really understand. I mean, again, we're supposed to be going from the Russian steppe to Scandinavia, but time doesn't really matter. And I guess, spoiler alert, they come across cavemen. Like, cavemen are the final boss, which is weird. And they're an indiscriminate number. At times, it seems like there's, like, we play a level of GoldenEye where we're assassinating people at one point, and there's like 8 of them, and they kill them all. And then later, an army of 200 shows up out of nowhere.
Yeah, and they're mounted too. Yeah, they don't have metallurgy, but there's so many of them.
They have
20
horses.
Vikings is nothing.
They look like what they called a dragon, a worm,
Yeah.
because there were so many with torches that it looked like a dragon coming down the mountain. And yet they're all on horseback. Where the hell do they keep all those horses in the cave?
Yeah, even outside, where the hell they keep all those horses?
Well, and again, this is not someone who smoked bad drugs. This is someone who got cheap whiskey and read about how, like, maybe what are the half horse people? Centaurs. Maybe centaurs were supposed to be like Turkic people, because they're so good on their horse that they're like half horse, half person, and they can shoot bows and arrows. And, you know, like, maybe the Greeks thought cyclopses were like mastodon heads, and you can find all
I'll one up you there. There's a theory that trolls were inspired by Neanderthals, which in the books it's much clearer that they're supposed to be not fully human.
Well, I mean, that's also where we get things like mountain men and yetis, like hairier people with big foreheads, which is why I'm not allowed in Yellowstone anymore.
What did you try to do to the bear, Nick?
But anyway, like that's kind of the end gag of all of this, but nothing is explained because this has no narrator.
But I was fascinated by the idea of an Arab in the Viking
Yeah.
world, because that we know that actually happened, especially with like the Varangian Guard in Byzantium.
Right.
Like there was a lot of trade between Scandinavia and the Mediterranean.
None of which the movie acknowledges.
Not at all. No, not even remotely.
Well, the first third of the book, Eaters of the Dead, is the real manuscript of Ibn Fadlan, the Muslim traveler. He had been sent to the Caliph to convert the people to Islam. It starts going off kilter when he gets taken to Denmark.
Well, I'll highlight a common theme in this podcast, that if I have to read the book to understand the movie,
Not
it's not going to happen.
Yeah, that's the problem. I'll admit a problem is there are only two Vikings I can tell from the rest. Herger, because he's funny, and Bullywhip, because he's a chief. The rest of them are like, who are these people?
It's a little bit like The Hobbit. Like, you've got a dozen little guys who all kind of look the same, and they all speak in a funny little accent, but they're indistinguishable from each other.
Like the credits talk about Helga the Wise. Where does he ever show that he's wise?
Yeah, who the hell is that? Like, we're not even introduced to them as such. They're just, when we're first shown these people, they stand up and say, in some Scandinavian dialect, like, yes, I'll do this. But we're not saying, okay, it's Helga the Wise. Okay, it's Olaf the Snow. Is it?
Did they even
None of
give
that.
them their names in the movie?
I don't know.
I mean,
I mean, when they died,
that's right.
yeah, it's like,
So, what did Helga do? Oh man, they took Helga's head. Oh, okay. Which one's Helga? Two guys died.
And also, like, I agree with you that Ibn Fadlan was, like, clean. He was, like, hygienic. Like, he wore white, like, that kind of stuff. But give him something to fucking do. Like, so, I mean, it's not a good movie. But Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves has Morgan Freeman playing the Arab character. And you know what he invents? Gunpowder. Because they had science in the Middle East, right? Like, have him do like almost a Robinson Crusoe thing, improve their lives, make them better. Yeah. But all he does is just like, oh man, this sucks. My sword isn't sharp enough. Like
so all of a sudden he knows not only metallurgy but blacksmithy. No. But he can't make gunpowder. He can't do like Greek fire.
They didn't have that. That's the Mongols. It was the Arabs didn't have it. That's why they kept losing.
The Greeks. Well, first of all,
the Byzantines did.
The Mongols had science. He could have gotten them clean water. He could have taught
a trebuchet.
He does actually seen him bathe. He refuses to bathe like they do.
Well, he does try. He does
praise once.
He does demonstrate writing, and then Bullywhip is like, that's one of the best scenes in the movie. Like, I will die a pauper. We'll be buried as a king. He's like, no, I want someone who can draw sound.
But they also do the fact where after the first night where he's injured, the Viking woman is healing him, and she's like, this is ox urine. Yeah. And he's like, no, give me clean water. And she's like, okay, but then you'll be feverish and you'll die probably within a week, highlighting or implying the fact that his knowledge is nothing to their earthiness knowledge.
Right.
Like they're equatable.
You go it backwards. I mean, but that's what I'm saying. You're right. The best scene of the movie is where he's showing he has knowledge. Do anything. The Arabs had distillation, water purification. They had science. If this is about him being advanced, it's backwards, because his only thing is like, if I become more like them, I become more masculine. No, this isn't like, I hate Big Bang Theory, but this is where you get your notes from Big Bang Theory and celebrate being smarter than people. Help them beat these like literally Neanderthals by being smart.
And well, to play devil's advocate on that, I think he wasn't necessarily smart. He was a hoity-toity prince.
He's a prince
in Persia,
yeah,
where he
was just Jake Gyllenhaal.
I know, right? Which I'm sure will be on Myopia at some point.
Oh God, that's a bad movie.
He's just a playboy noble who got set up in a bad situation.
That's right.
He is not an Aristotle where, oh, by the way, I know how to do irrigation and do all these, technologically advanced things. No, he's just a guy who probably benefited from all that and then was stuck out into the wilderness.
And then hit it and quit it, by the way, because that woman has no lines of dialogue and then just gives him an awkward look later.
In the book, I think of his character arc as he starts to go native, like he starts banging all their slave girls, just like the Vikings are and stuff.
I mean, better movie, but I will give Jeremy something and then you can cut in here. But you said this would have been a better miniseries.
Yeah, you don't learn anything about the Vikings. You don't learn anything about the enemies. Yeah, as you said, like geography and time mean nothing. They're in one place one time, and then the next scene, they've gone who knows how many miles.
Yeah.
There is an epic in there. But this movie is 100 minutes long.
Yeah.
Nothing can be an epic in 100 minutes.
Well, especially when you focus on they insult him because he was a tiny horse, because he was literally an arabesque, right? And they have these kind of hefty, Clydesdale-esque horses. And then he proves the value because he can jump over the walls and he's much more agile.
Then he jumps over one of the Vikings on a horse.
Right. And then, they make fun of his sword because it's a scimitar and it's small. And
they give you a sword, you made it a dagger.
Right. And they had these big kind of German-esque long swords, and they're heavy, and they can cut through something blunt. And yet, then when he sharpens it, it's much more agile, which, again, should be a learnable moment. Maybe he convinces a few of them to carry lighter swords or have a dagger with them like they're samurai with a heavy and a light one. No, nothing matters. It's just he's vaguely proven his masculinity, and then we move on to the next plot point because this movie was cut to ribbons and no lawyers were eaten on the toilet. So I got nothing. I got none of my roots. By the way, stay tuned because we've got to do Sphere at some point. Just because I want to see Dustin Hoffman try to act against Samuel L. Jackson, who's napping because they did Jackie Brown at the same time.
Yeah.
By the way, Jackie Brown, the better movie. It's not even my favorite Tarantino, and it's the better movie.
I wonder if this was maybe the cautionary tale that spurred in the Hobbit trilogy, that there's too much for one film, maybe not enough for a trilogy, which is apparently Hollywood's thing. You're right, I could see it as a miniseries with Monster of the Week kind of thing as they make their way over to wherever the hell they end up. But you're right, in an hour and a half movie, not even hour and a half, they skip over everything that should be interesting. Traveling, even they say on his way back, the final scene, he's boarding a Viking longboat, he's leaving. He basically says, and so we went through the land of the dragons and the land of monsters, and I finally got home. Well, why can't I see that? Why can't I see that?
I thought that's what he was talking about was he was in the land of monsters, the Neanderthals.
Yeah, but
anything
more, because it's just okay. It's a bunch of guys literally just laughing the entire way to this because they're Vikings and they must be just jovial little guys. All they do is laugh around the campfire in this montage, and then all of a sudden they're at Hell's Gate.
Well, and also, guys. I know maybe this is the era to remake this into something because the book came out in the
70s.
There you go. And this movie came out in the mid 90s. I thought it was the 80s, but
99.
There you go.
Yeah, 99 because I saw it when I was in high school. It was one of the first R movies.
And was it published in the 70s?
1976.
There you go.
Right.
This is very 70s.
And this is early because He also wrote things like the Andromeda Strain in the 70s, and he was also
Probably a better movie. Definitely a better book.
better book and better movie, I think. He wrote Terminal Man, which I kind of made a movie in the 80s. It's in development. Like they've been trying to make it an Airframe again for decades. Jed Olko,
He's a successful author. Doesn't mean everything he writes is a good film. Case in point,
That's a Stephen King.
Stephen King. Exactly.
Well, this, if you made it 3 hours, this might be better, like a Lord of the Rings.
Yeah, no.
well, or make it a miniseries. Now's
Yeah.
like this is
Well,
the
TV
era of the miniseries.
Well, TV miniseries are 3 hours, 4 hours.
Make it 4 because, like, to me, the interesting parts of this are so. I was watching this. I paused it because I had to tell my daughter a bedtime story or something. It takes us 39 minutes before we get that weird, big, giant, creepy footprint. You know what I'm talking about? That looks like a Sasquatch footprint.
When they find the village that's been destroyed.
Exactly. And I'm like, now you got a movie. Like, are we hunting monsters? Or what's going on here? Like, because I hadn't seen this before. I avoided it like the plague. Same with like that Timeline movie, which again, I'm sure is a stay tuned. The Paul Walker one. I think
it was entertaining.
The book.
I've never
sucked.
seen it.
I can only imagine what the movie did.
the book to me felt like it wanted to be Jurassic Park through time, and they had no idea what they
Well,
were.
it was, here's science, and let's make science like against the public consciousness.
And
So like Abraham Lincoln spoke with like a really high pitched voice.
and George Washington was nauseous on the back of the boat that he
Yeah.
crossed the Delaware in.
It's like little things that shouldn't really matter, but for some reason are played up as big deals.
Well, and I mean, for me, the big problem was it had Lost World syndrome, where 90% of it was science and no action. Jurassic Park, like, they have the science there, but it's like an espionage thriller where Dobson is trying to convince Needry, and like people are dying, and the book actually moves. Lost World is all nonsense science. Like 200 of the 400 pages is just blah, blah, blah.
Now, so Eaters of the Dead, the book this is based on, is actually 200 pages by itself.
Right. But that's why the book could be better, but it's not.
Because the problem with making it too long is from the Volga Bulgars to Scandinavia, not a lot happens. So the montage, I'd have a problem with the learning Swedish montage.
That's a mechanism so that no one has to translate. Like, so they all speak English, basically.
And Spielberg, who's a better director, shockingly, did it right. We should see bits of the massacre of that village, because our appetite isn't whetted by violence for 45 minutes. It's just a bunch of talk where a dude floats over in a boat, man. You know what happens with Jurassic Park's cold open? A raptor eats like a laborer. And he goes, shoot! That's something that...
Here's an idea I had. The movie starts out with him in a Viking ship looking sick, and then cuts back to Baghdad. I'm imagining you see him in the Viking ship, record scratch, freeze frame. You're probably wondering how I got here.
Basically what he says. Isn't it?
Dude, are you doing like a...
That was that TV show.
Yes!
Like, everybody hates...
Chris?
No.
No.
Something like that.
It was like, you like, stop and listen, like, whatever. But yeah, no, it doesn't need to be an 80s comedy. Maybe he's fucking the Caliph's daughter.
Actually, I am curious. Who here has read the book?
I've read it, but it's been
How closely does
20
the
years.
film actually follow the book?
Pretty well. It's just like, again,
Is the
like,
book as slow as the movie?
book? The book kind of sums up a lot. Like the last battle where the Wendell just go kamikaze on the hull is like a page, and it's like words cannot describe how bloody it was.
Well, and I will say
It's a novel. Words can describe how bloody it was.
right. No, dude, this is a guy who, let's not forget, Michael Crichton dropped out of med school. He wanted that book done so he can make some money. But I will say what it does that this movie doesn't do is what Jeremy wanted, which is that it describes the main character more.
Yeah.
I know who Ibn Fadlan was in the book. This movie, man, I get nothing. He's tabula rasa here. He's almost an automaton.
Oh.
He's learning how to cut with a sword. You'd think he would have done it before he left.
Well, I think that's kind of the point, is that he was kind of a lazy
He was a
upper class
playboy Arab
twit
noble.
who
Yeah.
becomes a man by fighting Neanderthals with the Vikings.
We-
does he though? I mean,
Oh, he says he does at the end.
Well,
Well,
He
I mean,
says
All
he-
these pagan people who helped Ibn Fadlan, Ibn blah blah blah, become a man.
well, he drinks booze, so he stops being Muslim about halfway
Well,
through.
I think they rules lawyer it by saying the Quran forbids beer and wine, not mead.
Out of people's blood, if I recall correctly. But that's also not true.
I just remember Herger's like, "This is made of honey."
Well, it's a trope on the Western civilization is modernizing or helping the infidel or the barbarian, and so in this, it's the Vikings making the Arab more of a person by giving him alcohol and teaching him to be a man.
Yeah, this is weird. Also, he knows what meat is. Meat existed in like Middle America, like Middle Europe. He's come across it before. It's just like, oh, what is this weird drink? It's like someone with a fake mustache pretending to be 21 going to a bar for the first time. Also, by the by, Antonio Banderas, as swarthy as he is, and by the way, by the end, I wasn't even wearing pants. He can't get rid of that Spanish accent. He sounds like Puss in Boot the whole time. And like, I am from Baghdad. And I'm like, I'm sure you are, buddy. I've laid
Whereas
pipe-
Omar Sharif has like an upper class English accent.
Oh, I know.
Who's the only Arab in the Arab film?
By the by,
Who's a fantastic actor.
Oh,
But like you said, he's written
Fast.
out in the first.
Well, he's
minutes.
too old. Ibn Fadlan is supposed to be younger, man. Omar Sharif's too old.
I get that. But like, why on earth did they send a guy who cannot speak Scandinavian on this trek without a translator?
Well, I
Like,
think the
he could
point
have
is
just gone with them.
Well, I think. Well,
if he hadn't died, you know who would have been perfect for this?
who's that?
Raul Julia.
The best.
as Ibn Fadlan.
Yes.
Ooh.
M. Bison and Mr. Adams as Ibn Fadlan.
Sure. He looks the part.
I mean, they've already established that being Hispanic makes you Arab.
Yes.
So, and he's a much better actor.
He is. And by the
Where he
way,
used a sword in the Addams Family.
Yeah. Yeah.
Is he gonna Marushka dance with the Vikings? Is that what you want?
That would have made it so much better.
yeah. I mean, and he could have added just a skosh of humor, because I like the actors involved, but he's a straight man. We'll do Mask of Zorro one day, but
Yeah. It's like things happen around him.
I guess if you
Things
remade it now, you could do it with Rami Malek. He's Arab.
Be interesting.
I mean, he's
Is
an
he Arab?
Arab.
Is he?
Yeah, he is.
Oh, okay.
I mean, technically, so is Selma Hayek, but like, there's almost a woman in here. She has a line. She bangs Antonio Banderas, and then she just gives him an awkward look now and again. I mean,
Yeah.
Yeah, she's like their medic or someone trained in healing.
She's a woman. That's just what they do. I mean, in this film, that's what they do. Like it's one of those. The men are fighting. Send the women and children to the back, or whatever. And we're all injured. Let's have women.
Yeah,
Heal.
you see, there's one scene where a woman is throwing a spear at one of the Wendell, but at that point, everyone's dead.
wait,
so.
you said this was 99. Who's the guy in The Mummy who plays the?
No.
Arnold Vosloo.
Who's South Africa?
Porky
No, not Vosloo. The guy who's in charge
Benny.
of the cult.
Benny, the little rowdy.
Not Benny. The guy who's in
Oded's Fair. Yeah.
Oded Fair.
would have been awesome.
He would have been great.
Yeah.
in charge of the cult.
Oh,
Is that the guy from
the
Star
Magi,
Trek?
the ones who are
The Magi.
Good guy.
the ones who are guarding a tomb.
The guys who guard the tomb, like, because he is an honest to God Middle Easterner
Yeah, but
who looks good as hell.
you wouldn't think anyone's in any danger. He just pulls scimitar out and everyone would just run away.
Exactly.
Dude, but that's the thing. Because what is he like? This is Antonio Banderas learning to be a badass, right? You're wearing the heavy robes, like Banderas is at the beginning, and he has to stand up. You're saying it's essentially a trial of masculinity, right? He's learning how to be a man. Dude, that's your actor out of fair? Like,
Well, it goes back to the
Well, no one would ever believe Oded Fair is this dorky loser guy. Oded Fair is
you give him glasses, and put his hair up in a bun, and then you take the glasses off and he shakes them out, and you're like, oh my God, you're the prom queen.
A man bun. Well, maybe. Yeah, he would have. Ibn Fadlan is the court fop. Would have a man bun, wouldn't he?
Oh God, better movie. We fixed it.
We fixed it.
Also, make it a miniseries and make it about him instead of this nonsense.
Yeah, that was an issue I had with the casting. Is that Bullywith? He's the leader of the warrior band. He's has all the charisma of a large brick.
Well, because they're not given anything to do. Like all the Vikings, like I had trouble telling them apart, really. And all that they do is they basically just fight. That's all they do. One guy is apparently an archer, but he dies pretty quick. The others are just large, beefy guys with beards and long hair, blonde. That's about it.
Yeah, the leader strikes me as someone who had some sort of tragedy in the past, and he's like, I'm never going to let that happen again. So he's all gruff and serious, but we don't know that. That's a guess.
Yeah, we don't know.
Well, right, and
Here's the Bullywith is the stoic chieftain type. Herger's funny. Like he's like, hello there, little brother.
Yeah.
Sorry, I can't do the
Yeah.
Scandinavian voice right.
hello there, little
But
brother.
he was essentially
Yeah,
a
it's right.
translator. So we were introduced to him first. We actually have his name. We have his. He's a helpful guy.
Well, I mean, and to Jeremy's point, I'm reading, shine my knuckles, East of Eden right now. The dude fought in the Indian Wars and never wants to talk about it. And it's like, what's that tragic thing that happened in your past? I'm not going to talk about it. And you're just like, you became the chief at a young age because you did something heroic.
Yeah.
And you're just like, anything.
Well, the thing
Gives
is,
me
the
something.
Viking culture, if he did something worth doing, he'd brag about it to no end.
Oh, give us a flashback. Even if he doesn't want to talk about it, give us a flashback.
Well, the perfect place for that would be when we're introduced to him, where he is the heir apparent, and the father had died. This was a funeral thing, so they torched the father's boat,
Yep.
like they do in a Viking funeral, apparently with some random maiden on board.
Yeah,
well,
one of his slave girls wanted
sure,
to die with him.
sucks to be her. But then this guy's the heir apparent, and he flat out kills, I guess, a rival
Yeah.
who tries to kill him. So we know this guy's a badass, but that would have been the perfect time for his supporters to say, and cheers to, whatever his name was, Bullywith, the hero of whatever. And I stood beside him as he killed so-and-so, or I was there when he did this.
And it was
As
filmed-
Vikings do, it's heroic tales.
and it was filmed in reverse where the guy was telling the story and we saw it happening. Because the problem with this movie on both ends is
Show, don't tell.
two, we learn nothing about Norse mythology, which is neat because they're talking about, we'll see you in Valhalla. Who knows? We'll see you.
We have many gods.
If a guy struck his chest and said to Thor, the great warrior god, and then Antonio Banderas, who knows nothing of their religion, says, who? And then we get a something. And to them, who knows nothing about Islam, who in 1999, Americans didn't know about Islam either, we would see something about Islam, but we see nothing about anything other than one prayer from each of them. At one point, Antonio Banderas faces towards Mecca, and he says he always knows where Mecca is, which is fine, but he does one prayer, and they do one prayer saying that they'll see their mothers and daughters and sisters and brothers and fathers in Valhalla, which is a great scene, a great prayer, but we get one moment of it. You'd think if he was an ambassador, he'd want to learn anything about anything, but we get nothing
Now,
about
I
anything.
was interested when Antonio Banderas writes out the prayer, like there is only one God, and he is Allah, and his
Right.
prophet is Muhammad. Like he wrote that out in the sand, and the king sees it, and then he writes it out later.
Right.
Like the importance of that was a little bit lost on me, but like
Maybe.
I imagine it's because the king is like, oh, like I'm reaching out to you, I'm trying to understand
think-
who you are.
I think that's the point. Is that shows Bullywith is smart. He recognizes the
But I would
importance
like
of
a little
writing,
more than that. Just like he picked up writing Arabic just from one go.
and like his speech when he knows he's going to
Took
die.
a year of Arabic, I couldn't do a shit for you. And like he did it immediately.
And the problem is, this is not a Warhol movie. You can explain stuff. There would be a great moment where, here's how you fix it. There's a kid nearby, like a child, a little Viking, a little tow-headed boy who wants to know what he's doing. And he goes, my religion believes that whenever I start a prayer, I invoke this God. And that's why I do it. And he goes, well, we invoke like Freya when we believe in love, and we invoke Odin when someone lives or dies, and we invoke Thor when there's war. And that would be an interesting dialogue.
Well,
But the movie is a war movie, not a cultural exchange movie.
Then what does it want to be?
Because we're introduced to dozens of children, because apparently they're the only ones that survive these Neanderthals' attacks. Like, they're always riding out to save these children who are screaming and running out into the fields outside of the settlement, and they're the only survivors. Like, it would have been fine for like a child to look at him and say, you're not like the rest of everybody. Who are you? Well, like, he's also significantly darker skinned from the fair hair.
And he doesn't have blonde hair?
Yeah, like, who are you? Like, we pray to Freya. Who are you? Like, it's a child. Use a child's inquisitiveness. Like, Nick and I both have kids. Those kids ask questions constantly. And you have to reassess, like, why do I think this? Or how do I explain this in a way to a child?
And to your point, when Naomi says prayers, because Catholic school, right? She says a girl instead of amen, because she's a girl and not a man. But that's what kids do, right? Why did you say...
Oh, my God.
Why did you say prophet instead of Thor? That's a question.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. He shares meals with them. He prays in front of them. And they talk about nothing. And by the way, you don't need the big angry men talking about war. That's what the kids are for. There are kids everywhere. This is a village. This movie needs to decide what it is. And you know what? If it's not about a village and it's not about Arabs... Just pick a random dude from France that they capture who is then strong enough. Make it a Spartacus movie against a monster. Because who cares? Like,
the point is, the whole, it would be bad. It would be, why change the nationality? The whole point is this is an Arab. That's what makes it interesting. He is not European at all.
But it's never...
It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. He's a monotheist.
It's never addressed.
They don't do a lot of it, but it's there.
Well, right. But if you said 10 minutes ago, this is a war movie, then it doesn't matter who he is. So just pick up another dead meat who doesn't believe in their religion. Right?
I don't get what that's supposed to mean. It doesn't. If it's a war movie, it doesn't matter. He's an Arab. That doesn't make sense.
Well, but you said they don't talk about religion, right? Because it's a war movie. That's what you said.
Well,
so then why does it matter at all? Why introduce it?
Which is fair because, okay, why is he an Arab? Why couldn't he be someone from, like, the Holy Roman Emperor? Why couldn't he be someone from Italy or someone from Spain, Antonio Banderas?
Frank.
Or Frank, literally anyone outside. He is an outsider, which is fair. That's a legitimate position to be in.
Yeah.
Why specifically make him an Arab? Well, that serves no purpose in the narrative whatsoever.
If you're not going to define the character at all. Because, like, again, like, they're going to Scandinavia. You could pick up any number of, like, Holy Roman...
Even Chinese, for all we care. Like, this movie just doesn't really care.
Because the movie doesn't address it. So, maybe you could actually... Dude, man, and by the way, we fixed the movie because then you have Jet Li in this movie and he's doing like fucking martial arts because it doesn't matter. Like, if it doesn't matter, dude, just go all out. Can you imagine him like tearing the heads off of people with some like nonsense? Like, dude, that's a better movie. Like, and I have nothing against Antonio Banderas, but like, the thing is, I read the book, it's been 25 years, but when I read it, 2 decades ago, back when Clinton was still president, the fact that he's Arab matters much more in the book than the movie, because of course it would. You characterize your main character. Here, since it doesn't matter, you might as well just say he's a Spaniard and not like make it about him being Arab at all, because it doesn't matter.
It almost seems like that in the book rather than the movie, it would have been basically, if he was just an Arab touring the world, that would have been a better thing. This is one of his stories as he's touring the world. He meets monsters, he meets great men, things like that. This is the many adventures of him.
Are you pitching a medieval X-Files? Because
maybe.
It's the Odyssey. Hal Mulder.
It's the Odyssey, basically. I mean, this is what it is. And So he's touring the world, and this is one of his stories.
Copyright myopia.
Exactly. Whereas the man we're introduced to is just, hi, I'm here. I have no. He's a blank slate. Like Nick said, he's a tabula rasa. There's no reason for him to exist other than to just be there to experience it. But then we're already there, so we don't really need him there.
Hey, Ibn, I think it's just a man. I don't know. I don't know, Thorson. I think I think it might be a human monster hybrid. Well, Ibn, without the evidence, I don't know if we can take anything back to Molderson. Just like I'm telling you, better movie, man. And
there's your miniseries right there.
Oh shit, son. So I mean, we should get to it. Eventually, like The Hobbit's 7th book, they end up showing up at this village, which is not at all prepared for war. So we have a montage where Ibn learns how to fight, and they build up the defensive structures. They build a fence. They build
walls. Yeah.
And not unlike the Persians, they have the spears to attack the horses. Like they have a full infrastructure that they build, and they essentially then stay and wait for an attack. The attack comes. It's aggressive. And at this point, Ibn, who is Antonio Banderas' character, as called by the Vikings, they call him Ibn.
Because he keeps like, I am Ibn Fadlan, Ibn such and such, for like a solid minute, and they're like, Ibn.
And then a blonde guy with a Fu Manchu says, we're calling you Ibn. And the first scene is, I mean, again, when we're in the dark wood, we have these giant Yeti-esque footprints, so we're not sure what we're going to see, but what shows up are these weird dudes wearing headdresses that are essentially the heads of bears, and their skin is painted like, effectively, ancient Celts, but instead of blue, it's black with red stripes instead of blue with red
Which
stripes.
goes back to the point, I think, Matt, you said it was in the book, that they're Neanderthals, that they worship the All-Mother, like they're definitely not Indo-European type peoples.
Right.
They are primitives, cannibals, whatever you want to call
Yeah, like they talk when they finally kill one, because the first attack is Beowulf. It's like 3 or
Which
4
I
of them.
loved. That was an awesome scene.
3 or 4 of them get
There's shadows attacking them, and there are no dead bodies left.
except for the arm,
Right.
which they hang up on the wall as a trophy. And then the Korgon, the fire dragon, is when the wind all turn out in numbers on horseback.
That's when this film goes downhill.
Both say, "Oh, pun."
Haha. Yeah, I mean, the first scene, they're sleeping, pretending to sleep even, because they hear that there are people outside the what do you want
The
to call
Great
it?
Hall.
The Great Hall, yes. The Great Hall. And they're attacking. They burst through the walls. They're basically shadows. They kill 2 guys. The next morning, they say, well, we lost 2 guys. They took their heads. There are no bodies. Well, I killed 2 at least, and you killed 2, so where are the bodies? They're demons or something.
Right.
And
Which quickly gets thrown
which
out.
quickly gets thrown out. And then they're investigating X-Files, like the village down the way where everybody was beheaded and skinned or whatever. And okay, it's mysterious. But then we're given the demon or the dragon, where it's nothing but cavalry. We've got thousands of these cannibals who were hiding their cavalry. Why? And just suddenly a normal invading army. They're not monsters in the mist, which we're introduced to in the beginning.
And,
Yeah,
and I will point out a stupid thing, which is we never see horses. We go into their caves and their homes, and there's no horses. But I will say, you just pointed out the problem. We could have made this so much more interesting if this is 99. X-Files is in its heyday. How is Ibn not
Millennium is in its heyday, which is the X-Files spin-off.
right? How is Ibn not like the Scully and one of the Vikings who believes in all these myths, not the Mulder, and they're looking at things, and the Viking is not obsessed with the mythology, and Ibn is not like, no, these are people. We have one scene of that, and then it's immediately gone away.
Yeah.
Like that idea that he is a logical Arab who knows science is forgotten so quick. I would love that. Like,
Yeah, that's a good point.
that's an interesting idea that science matters.
Because they even say, like, you cannot mention the name of these things because that will bring a curse on us.
Yeah, they only call him like Wen once, not Wendell, which is
Yeah.
the book.
Yeah.
Well, and again, he's a man who can read and write and do arithmetic and knows basic science, presumably. And he is like, these are monsters. No, they're not monsters. They're men. And he's like, at the end, when there's the by the way, a scene that is not only ripped off of Temple of Doom, but a shitty version of it. You're just like, man, buddy, calm your tits. These are not monsters. These are cannibals. You know what cannibals are. Cannibals exist. These are monsters. And there's 7 of them that we're going to kill in this scene. And then 400 show up later. This movie has no control over numbers.
Yeah,
And-
because even the Wendell are Stone Age. They don't have metalworking, but they do have cavalry. So even though the Vikings have metal armor and swords, the Wendell in some scenes outnumber them so much there's no way they should lose.
And, I mean, the Wendell are, if you've ever played Age of Empires, they're the computer on deathmatch, because they just show up with 400 people on horseback with, like, torches. Like, it's crazy. This movie...
Out of nowhere.
Out of nowhere. And by the way, torches should do better against wood structures. There's just a bunch of crazed women running around with buckets in this movie.
Mm-hmm. Like, they live in caves because apparently they decide these people believe that they're bears.
Mm-hmm.
And so obviously they live in caves. Well, okay, that's kind of a leap, but sure, why not? And it pans out. They're cave people. They're cavemen, essentially. Again, where are the horses? Where are the thousands of people? Where are the thousands of horses? Like, the ones we're introduced to in the caves, couple dozen, maybe?
Yeah. Or maybe they're all elsewhere. I mean, the whole point was this was a commando raid to assassinate their leadership.
I get that. And it is fantastic in and what it is, but this isn't the thousands, tens of thousands that we're shown with the dragon of lanterns. Like, there are innumerable of them versus the couple dozen Vikings that are in the town.
Also, I would have loved a scene, which we don't get, wherein the ambassador tries to reach out to these monster people. He immediately says, oh, these are humans. These are people. Why doesn't he try to go out and compromise with him?
Or they capture one, and they try and reason with him, and he proves to be unreasonable.
This is where you need your Omar Sharif character. What if they go out to try to reach out, and then they kills Omar Sharif?
Boom.
And
Now
then
you have a
now
reason.
he wants to kill them. Because you know what a diplomat doesn't ever do? Carry a fucking gun to kill people.
Well,
It
he's been drafted into the army by these people.
gives a shit. It's his job. You know what? If I'm a historian and I'm drafted, I still want to learn things.
Well, that's the plot of oh shit, that Disney movie that sucked. That didn't actually suck. Atlantis.
Atlantis.
He's
still trying to learn.
He's
even when he's
trying to
doing
learn,
that.
even when he's in the military.
That would have been an interesting scene where he's like, look, they're people. I want to try to reach out to them.
Or
then they kill his buddy, and now he wants to
And then
kill
in the
them.
cave, he sees their cave paintings. We see their cave paintings in the cave. And he tries to understand who they are and why they're doing it.
Then he realizes everything is skulls. That would have been interesting because he's like, oh no, they're people. They want to learn. I want to try to reach out to them.
reason
And
with
then he
people.
realizes that.
And then they see the temple that they see in the depths of the cave where it's nothing but skulls, floor to ceiling.
That's an more interesting movie because since, as Jeremy pointed out, because he's the one who's seen every movie who's ever lived.
And actually, thinking about the whole ambassador thing, that exact scenario happens at the beginning of Gladiator,
Right.
where they're fighting the barbarians, and the leader of the barbarians holds up the head of the guy who was sent to talk to them.
Yeah.
And therefore, we can take a moment to celebrate Ridley Scott.
Yes.
Much better director than Michael Crichton /
John
McTiernan.
McTiernan, yeah.
Because, I mean, actually, we should go into the production of this.
Please tell us.
So, this thing was apparently a clusterfuck. And I apologize for saying that in this family-friendly podcast. So it was going, I guess, well with McTiernan directing this Michael Crichton novel. and it's shown to the test audiences. Test audiences despise it. So basically, I guess they despise it to the point that McTiernan is fired or quits. Michael Crichton comes in as director, does a complete recut of the film. And then that's what we got, which doubled the budget of this thing from something like 60 million to 110, 120 million. And it's still not great, which makes me wonder just how bad the initial cut was. It couldn't be as bad as this, but, you know, I've seen worse.
Part of me hopes that the original cut was just bonkers, like leaned into the mythology and all that stuff.
Maybe. We're a different audience now. Maybe it'll be good. I don't know.
Yeah, I know it says in IMDb that Michael Crichton insisted on making the mother of the Wendell like much younger and prettier. In the book, she's this hideous old woman, and so because they thought it'd be bad if Bullywith kills an old woman.
I mean,
A young woman isn't bad.
And she's this like ninja girl with like poison blades and stuff.
I mean, the fight scene lasts 30 seconds.
Yeah.
I don't know how.
none of any of that. I mean, and you're right. I mean, again, we've read the book. It's been years, but it's Crichton. Everything's slightly sexier. I mean,
I will say I was going to agree with Matt that maybe having a sexy young Earth Mother makes more cinematic sense. But at the same time, it's like, she's the Earth Mother. She's supposedly procreating like crazy with these creatures. How is she a 20-something?
Yeah, how does a teenager become the mother goddess? Even if there's like a succession of priestesses, you'd expect to be older.
Well, like the wizened old woman who tells the two wizened old women who have speaking lines in this film.
Yeah,
one of them is the one that says, you need 13 warriors, and one has to be non-Viking. And the other one that says, ooh, they're cave people, go into the earth. I mean, they're wizened old women. Let's have another wizened old woman. Come on.
this movie is
an enemy counterpart. That makes sense.
Yeah.
okay. I hate his movies.
Michael Crichton or
No.
McTiernan?
I was gonna say I hate
Banderas.
I hate his. I don't hate anything about Antonio Banderas. That man can melt my heart. Even as Puss in Boots, I don't like any of the movies, but I like him. I will say
He's not named Puss for no reason.
right. This should have been a Zack Snyder movie
Oh God.
because it wouldn't have been worse than this, and there would have been actual action.
No.
There would have been and you know what? The fucking monsters would have looked like monsters.
Vikings, tonight we dine in Valhalla.
By the way, 300 is going to come out this season. I'm telling you, we've talked about it for years. It's not going to be a 300th episode because we hate movies to that, and I can't do that. But
301.
right, it's or 299. But I will say that man can direct a movie with monsters that John McTiernan apparently just didn't want to do. Like. Do it. Like, I know they're supposed to be, like Matt said, I read the book, they're Neanderthals, they're almost men, but make them hunchbacks, make them monsters,
This is the guy who did Predator. How did he...
Well, they didn't make them monster
make
enough.
it a predator.
They didn't make them monster enough.
Yeah.
I think because they're so convinced or concerned with making them men, human, that they're not concerned with, like with 300 or Predator, they are not human. We're not like, give me a scene where they watch them disembowel a child.
Yeah.
Or something where, like, I have zero pity for these people. They just need to be slaughtered because they don't understand anything.
If you want,
Like you said, with, like, you'll kill the ambassador.
yeah.
Just something where I hate these people. Instead, they're basically just an invading army.
Have them come across a campsite where there's literally a human skull on a spit. Right? They've eaten the bones, they've eaten every bit of meat, and you're just like, and Banderas is desperately trying to say, no, they aren't eating people. This must have been no. And the wizened old Viking just says, this is a human, and just throws the skull away. Like, that's something. And then if you're going to do this, have them all played by professional wrestlers, because none of the Vikings are built dudes, but then have them look like humans, but monster humans, right? Like if the king, because eventually the woman is killed.
Yeah, they have a new character in the movie called who wears the horns of power. He's their general. So I was wondering if they were going for some sort of proto Wicca thing, the Earth goddess and the horned god.
Right. And like I just read American Gods, which is a great Neil Gaiman book, but he's like, if you're pagan, why aren't you having orgies? Like, right? Like, why aren't you doing the pagan? Which god are you pledging to? Like, do something.
Yeah,
have them
give
be
me something.
monsters. Like
I mean, it would have been good for the had they not had that general character. When the Vikings killed the Earth Mother, and they escaped through the water. Like, they escaped down the tunnels. They're being hunted by the people who realized that they were there. They escape through the water. When they come up in the cliffs, have that be the end of it.
right.
Instead, you've got another set piece where they just shoot an arrow into the guy and he dies, and then everybody suddenly retreats.
Yeah, and like someone is still in command of the army even after he's dead because they start blowing horns and the army retreats when they could have won.
Yeah, exactly. They've got thousands, tens of thousands of these monsters, and they just retreat.
Yeah, I mean, we see a lot of horses without riders, but they still had enough people.
I will say though, I think it was you who brought up The Hobbit earlier. It's that nonsense in The Hobbit where an archer that we've been introduced to pages before hits the one space on Smog that doesn't matter. Like, but as someone who has read all the old Norse myths, make anyone a hero. No one is a hero in
The king
this.
is kind of a hero, but then, I mean, I don't know.
Ibn sails off
Yeah.
nonsense. He goes off to Valhalla.
Again, if he was the wandering Arab, kind of like the mythical wandering Jew, like, this is one of his many tales. But we're not even introduced to anything like that.
Or you make one of the Norsemen the hero that he is then writing about. I met the great one, Thorson, right? And therefore he belongs in a place in our Muslim theology because he had the sword that was true.
What do you call it? The noble infidel.
Right. That's exactly right. And you make a point to say, you there, boy, who is learning how to sword, you will never sword as well as Thorson until you can do X, right? And that's why you tell the stories of Sir Gawain and the Green Knight. That's why you tell the stories of Lancelot. And if you're in England or if you're in Belgium, you sell, well, not the racist stuff. It's Tintin. It's Tintin. You know, you're like, hey, what if you were 14 and you could solve a mystery? But that's why you tell the story of, the steel driving man in America, right? Like, you cut down Johnny Appleseed's trees. You learn those stories because you're supposed to learn something. This movie just is like, goodbye movie, and Antonio Banderas writes up in Arabic, and it's like, man, alcohol was weird. The end. There's also 3 action sequences which don't matter.
Yeah.
A bunch of horses died, but they ended up in craft services, so it was worth it.
Waste not, want not.
That's right.
Yeah, it's just and I'm sure we'll get to it when we wrap it up.
We're there,
It's
buddy.
such a, I don't know. It can't decide what it is. It wants to be an action movie, but there's no action. It wants to be a mystery movie, and there's no mystery. And it's, I don't know. It's plotting where it shouldn't be. Like I said, I fast forwarded through scenes where I should be gripped, like when they're in the caves. But then we spend like 15 minutes of them fashioning a rope to swing through a waterfall. It's like, why do I need 15 minutes for that, where each and every one of them goes through this goddamn thing?
We know. Ibn learned how to be brave 3 scenes ago. We don't need him to be afraid to swing and have to be shoved off by one of the 6 dwarves on The Hobbit.
Yeah.
Like, come on, boy. All right, John, we'll start with you then. Would you recommend this or not?
Not really. No, it's plotting, and it's poorly directed, either by McTiernan or Michael Crichton. I would love to see McTiernan's cut.
Director's cut.
Just because, like, if this is what we got, where it's a mix of McTiernan and Crichton, where McTiernan should know better, and Crichton is, the author and knows the material better, McTiernan's couldn't have been that horrible.
Yeah.
This movie bombed at the box office, and I can see why. Give me something. Is it an action film? Give me action if it's an action film. Give me something. And it's just not great. No.
Jeremy?
Yeah, as I'm sure I'm going to echo everyone, I do want to see what it originally was, because there's no way this could have been the original intention.
This was the good cut.
But as it is, would I recommend it? No, but if it's on TV, I would have it on in the background while I did other stuff. It's good for that much. It's just, overall, it's a missed opportunity. It gives itself a lot of good stuff and does nothing with it. And that's the biggest thing. You can see where it could have been good. I think it would have worked great as a miniseries, but as it is, no.
Matt?
I'm going to be contrary. I actually thought the movie was entertaining and wasn't boring. And it has a lot of nice details that are really helpful, especially if you know the history and culture of the Norse. But but I might have mentioned earlier, or John mentioned as well, the characters are not well differentiated from each other. And it could have been better. It should have been a longer movie or a miniseries maybe. But yeah. So, I mean, it's worth seeing at least once.
I think it comes down to direction. It was just poorly executed.
Yeah.
It's a solid story. Like Grendel was. I mean, if you skin it down to its bare essentials, it could have worked.
Yeah.
I don't think they did.
This is a world-class Dad for Noon movie. Like, you have a drink or not, it's on TV, you're half asleep, it's enjoyable, but, like, it is nothing. I don't feel like, you don't have to do, a good movie, you don't have to do anything. I don't have to learn anything. I don't have to feel anything. But this movie feels like you should learn something. It should be anything. You should have an action scene. You should have a learning scene. Maybe learn something about Norse mythology or Islam. None of that. This movie, though, is just it's not bad. It's just nothing. Like, and you could go anyway with it. You could make it more action-packed. You could make it more introspective. It did nothing. Like, is it bad? No. It's just a blank sheet of paper. It's a t-shirt. It's an afternoon movie. It should belong on TNT. I don't know what made it an R-rated movie. God help us. Turn it down 20%, make it PG-13. You have something that lives on a Turner Broadcasting channel for the rest of your life. I agree with everything. Even Matt. Like, it's not bad. It's just nothing. Make it a miniseries. Make it anything. It's just a wet fart of nothing.
I was wondering when a wet fart would come up.
It always does. Yeah.
But we've talked for an hour on this nonsense.
Almost as long as the film.
Almost as long as this film. I will say, if you feel like doing any of this, learning about any of this, Game of Thrones, that first season has tits and this.
Well, the book has nudity in it. The Vikings are always screwing around.
The book does?
Oh, man. Nothing like
Is it a pop-up book? Illustrations?
Nothing like some ASCII pornography to make you run out. Oh my God, there's C's in the... a D. And the nipple kind of looks like a C.
Well, she pitted boobily down the stairs.
Yeah, the NC-17 director's cut with the Vikings having their orgies and then killing Neanderthals.
And by the by,
I'd buy that. I would watch that in a heartbeat.
I would watch it too. And we're talking Michael Crichton nonsense. Michael Crichton has a lot of nonsense. We've done all the Jurassic Park movies, which are, other than the first one, which is a true masterpiece. The rest are true nonsense. Dustin Hoffman and Sphere is a stay tuned. Airframe will never ever come out, which is a book I enjoyed very much.
Air Freight?
Airframe.
Airframe.
Oh.
But as far as this movie goes, thank you for subscribing to our Patreon feed. You already heard John and I do the Thomas Crown Affair for the same director this month. And, of course, we did Twister for this month. Suck Zone indeed.
Not based on the game. I was
Not
very
based on-
disappointed for.
And on the free part of Patreon, I already posted Cineprov's Plan 9 from Outer Space, which I think came out very well. But Daniel, Evan, and I recorded our riff / commentary on Star Wars Attack of the Clones. So you can watch that as well, synced up. So when you download this, you can watch it on the screen as we riff it. In the meantime, I'm going to be on as a voice actor on a show with Evan, which will be posted to this feed, and possibly pinched to Adult Swim coming up. Otherwise, thanks for listening. On panel, of course, we have
John?
Jeremy?
Matt?
and thank you for subscribing.
Myopia Movies is a podcast production of Dude Letter Podcasting and is produced by Nick Hoffman. It is edited by Nerd Trinette and Daniel Sudis and is hosted by Nick Hoffman, with production assistance by Matthew Quinn, Daniel Sudis, and Nerd Trinette. The theme song is Surf Shimmy by Kevin MacLeod from Incomptech.com. Licensed under the Creative Commons by Attribution for License, Creative Commons /licenses by /4.0. Thanks.